Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am joining both podcasts together, so you don't have to listen to both of them. I'm going to save you guys some time today. So, Without the Bank and Farming Without the Bank, killing two birds in one stone today with an interview with my client, Ty Eschenbaum, out of South Dakota. Ty is a co-owner of A1 Development. He is also a real estate investor and an inspirational speaker. So Ty has a lot going on, and we are going to cover a lot today. So be prepared for a longer interview. Just going to forewarn you. Welcome, Ty.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited. There's so much to talk about. Let's start with, where should we start? Let's start with A1 Development, and can you share a little bit about what you do there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up on a farm and ranch in South Dakota, not too far west of Brookings. So my family does seed stock, Charolais cattle. Wink Charolais is our ranch. And so always tied to South Dakota and ag and the livestock industry. Went to South Dakota State for ag business, and was one of the first graduates of the entrepreneurship program. Landed actually doing economic development for the state of South Dakota within the Department of Ag. Worked on recruiting companies of South Dakota, helping them find a site, permitting. So typically, obviously, ag-based, livestock and industrial both. And then I also did some ag trade missions, helped lead some trade missions to China and Russia and Kazakhstan. So learned a lot in my 4 or 5 years there. Spent a little bit of time with the company that we helped find a big ag site for here in South Dakota. Rembrandt Foods was going to build a 7 million cage-free laying hen facility by Brookings, and hired me to be the site operations manager. Went to work for them for a couple years, and then ended up joining my former boss, Paul Cosboth, was the director of ag development for the state of South Dakota for 4 or 5 years. And Paul and I always talked how there was just such a need, that the state did such a good job of recruiting companies and like livestock families and livestock producers as well, that, were in South Dakota or were wanting to move their business to South Dakota because of the business climate, tax climate, hard work of the people here, water resources, available land. But once they got here, there's no one to kind of handhold them, right? To help them, show them counties and the county, local zoning process and how a county conditional use permit works, and comparing sites and integration into the utilities, and kind of blocking and tackling through the whole process. And we just saw such a need. So that's where A1 really took off. Paul actually started it. He actually joined forces with Mark Mickelson, a businessman out of Sioux Falls, who's a past legislator, Speaker of the House. So the three of us are equal partners, Paul, Mark, and I. And we've recruited some amazing team members that have joined our team as well. But, at our core, we are owners reps for ag projects across. We've done a lot of work in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, dairies, hogs, beef cattle, renewable energy, anaerobic digesters, wind energy, grain processing, food production, milk and cheese plants. We really kind of stand in the middle between the attorneys and the builders and the engineers and the county commission and the neighbors, and really just make sure everyone's communicating and the project goes smoothly.
That's awesome. I didn't realize you guys were in so many states. Can you work in any state?
Yep, absolutely.
Huh.
So we've found that, what we kind of do, we learn. We've built the Rolodex, so our network of professionals. So we're not attorneys, we're not engineers, we're not well drillers, we're not surveyors, but a project takes all of those things. And so we've built a network of all those professionals that are needed on projects. Most times our clients already have a builder, a bank, a lender, somebody that they're comfortable with, and we can make recommendations. We are neutral. We don't have any direct, connection to any service provider, but every single one of these projects, we've worked on 2,400 head. We've been involved in almost 100, probably 2,400 head contract hog barns. That'd be their smallest project, up to beef cattle hoop barns, 3,000 head dairies, 10,000 head dairies, all the way up to industrial projects. We've got a client now, we're working on a couple $billion sites, but they all have the same component, right? Communication, transparency with the local neighborhood, connecting all the builders and subcontractors, and making sure everyone's speaking the same language.
So are you managing those builds?
No, we're not. We're not a direct construction manager. So we're not. We more block and tackle. Think of like on a large site, there's kind of where the project starts to rub against other entities or the public. So from public meetings and outreach, we typically lead the conditional use process, the local zoning process. If there's any haul road agreements with the township, with the county. There's always work to be done, negotiations to be had, communications with utilities, right? Electric, water, power, wastewater, DOT. Some projects need turn lanes, or they need an access permit onto the highway. These sites are farmed by somebody today, so someone's got to pay crop damages when we drill a well out there and run down corn, or lease out the site to a farmer because we're not going to build till the next year, or there's all kinds of, there's financial programs that either the project is working on or the local community might be eligible for because a big project is coming into their community. So
a definite
we end up.
I mean, I can see the need, because I would get super overwhelmed and go, forget it, I'm not doing it because I don't know all the rules. But if you can reach out to somebody that knows all the rules and can navigate those and just make your life easier, you can build faster, make money quicker.
Yeah, it is. It's really just, there's a lot of landmines out there on projects because they aren't aware, because even whether you're a small family operation or you're a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company, you don't build projects. These organizations or these companies, they don't build a new project every day. So we're involved with tons of new ones every year. So we learn a little bit new on each one, right? Drilling water, quality of water, rural water versus groundwater, permits, surveying through the build process. Every project's a little bit different, but yeah, I think you could ask my mom or dad or brothers, like, what does Ty do? And they'd be like, we're not really sure. So it is.
They could just answer, Ty does everything. Ty does everything. We try to remove all the pain points, right? What's not getting done? Where's all the gaps that don't fall specifically with the engineer or with the builder or with the company? We fill in gaps, help make introductions. So very, very, we've learned a lot of knowledge over the years, but it's relationship based, right? If we don't know how to do something, we know who to call that does. Yeah, very cool. All right, so you guys, I don't know how many people know this. I'm not going to say everybody does, but if you've read my book, you should know that my dad was a Charolais breeder, so we had Charolais cattle for, I don't know, something like 30 years. So I have a soft spot for the Eschenbaum family because they have Charolais cattle. And so, and Ty did bring that up, that he came from that background. And Wink Charolais out of South Dakota. If you have ever come across Charolais cattle and you don't know Wink Charolais, I don't know where your head has been, but I knew about Wink Charolais well before I ever met Ty. But you do some of the marketing and stuff for Wink as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very proud of our family background. My my grandpa Arnold and grandma Carol are in the Charlet Hall of Fame, and they're both live in Brookings, South Dakota. They've been in the Hall of Fame for almost 10 years now. They got their first Charlet. My grandpa Arnold always says that he got his first Charlet bull and married the love of his life, grandma, in the same month, in the same year, 1958. And he said he's still got them both. So he considers himself lucky. So
That's awesome.
And at that time, my great grandma and grandpa, Leroy and Francis Wink, were also involved. So really, my brothers and I would be fourth generation, and Sterling's kids, my older brother Sterling's and his wife Courtney, their kids, Riker, Landry, and Laramie, would be fifth generation Wink Charlet.
So this is the one thing that I'm excited about with the cattle side of stuff, is that I had not ever, and I still to this day can probably say, I don't have another client or another cattle breeder that rents out cattle. Like, I'm sure that I'm saying that wrong, but can you share a little bit about what you guys are doing on that front to just go, hey, you know what, we're going to do one better than just sell every bull individually or flush everybody or flush all the cows and sell semen. We're going to take it one step further.
Yeah, it kind of grew out of a need. Maybe to back up, I don't think I fully answered your first question about how I'm involved in the farm. So was involved showing cattle with my brothers, and grew up in the National Charlet Association. I was a board of director. I was our National Charlet president at one point, and then have served on our breed improvement committee, and I've also been a director on the national board in the past. So very involved. Like all the breeds, we're doing a lot of stuff on genomic testing and EPD work and really trying to keep up with the latest technologies. I'm involved in the farm not only from the financial side and data analysis and looking at the cow records and some of that stuff, but on the marketing side, I'm the one that builds our bull sale catalog and keeps our website updated and all that fun stuff. But yeah, we really just grew. It just out of what we saw was kind of a need, a niche, if you will, where we have a bull sale. And last Saturday in April, we sell 110 of our top bulls. We have about 250 on feed, on performance tests. The top, 40%, the top 110 sell at auction at our place in April. The rest of them, another 100 plus, we give guys the option to private treaty, buy, or lease. And we will lease them a bull and for the breeding season and take it back. And we've got other clients in other parts of the country that need them over the winter, or 2-year-olds. And then we also have a bull sale every fall in November down in the South Central Florida. So it's not for everybody. It's a lot of extra work and a lot of extra management. And some guys, some guys like it, some guys don't, but it really fills a need for somebody that, wants their bulls to show up and leave and not have to feed them year round and semen test them and take the risk of them getting hurt and taking up a pen. And it's kind of the easy button if they got other stuff going on.
I love I called it a rent, but I love leasing is a much better word. I love the leasing idea. And I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but I have some clients in Florida that own a grove, and they actually, I believe, use Wink bulls. They have a grove, an orange grove, but he has some Angus cattle as well. And he totally knew who you guys were when I was down there visiting them. So what a small world, right? Because you're not just saying, absolutely, hey, who needs to lease them in the upper Midwest, but they're just sitting here all winter. Why can't we take them south and use them down there and then bring them back? But yeah, love that idea. I think it's genius.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's a lot of extra work, and it's not for everybody, but it works for us, and it works for a segment of our clients.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now Ty has so many things he does. The other thing that Ty does is a lot of real estate investing. So can you touch on that a little bit, what you're doing on that side?
Yeah, I started college. I wanted to be a doctor, so I was going to be pre-med, and uh, and then after my freshman year, decided that I didn't want to have to make those decisions that doctors have to make and be in the same field. I like to, change of scenery, change of pace, involved in different things has always been kind of my style. So really like my business classes, really liked my econ classes. And I started to read books on real estate, on investing, on money, on, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki is probably the one that first kind of like got me thinking like differently, different than I'd ever been taught in school or, by any mentor or whatever. And so I really started reading a lot of books on, again, investing, trading, money, and real estate. And so I bought a house when I was in college, and me and my friends all needed a place to live. And so I was like, well, instead of renting it from somebody else, why don't I just buy it and we can live there. And so I bought my first house when I was 20, and just really love understanding all that goes into it and the cash flow of rental property. So I don't have a ton, but I've built up. I've got a couple houses and a duplex in Brookings, and plan to keep growing that. And then here just recently, going to be closing on a more of an upscale condo that'll be an Airbnb, VRBO type of situation. So that'll be new to me. That's a new build, and quite a bit different than the long-term college, Brookings, South Dakota rentals that I have been doing. But I love real estate. I think it's got a lot of merit from a buy and hold, appreciation, compounding, and security. And it's something that I plan to keep rolling into more properties and land really as I get older.
And so I am going to assume, so Ty is a client of mine, but I also have an agent in South Dakota. And so Ty really was introduced to infinite banking through that agent. But with the real estate and the Robert Kiyosaki and reading all the stuff about money, obviously when you heard about infinite banking, it was just a fit.
Yeah, it was. I'd never heard of it before. I got introduced and read the book, read your book first, and then went and read Nelson's books, and I'd never, of all the books I've read on all the investing and all the deals, never heard of it, never came across it. Which, like you talk about quite a bit, it gave me pause. Like, why is no one talking about this? And I've read a lot about it, thought a lot about it, and when people ask me about it, I just tell them it's not a magic pill, it's not a silver bullet, it's not do this and you're gonna get rich quick. It's nothing like that. But when you actually understand it and put together, the security of it, the compounding, the ability to still use it so you can invest in other things, the tax implications, on down, for me, toward the bottom of the list is the actual death benefit, right? But that's in there, of course. So to me, when you add all those things up, that's it's a tool, and it just makes so much sense with what else I've got going on, and it's really, I intend it to be kind of the base of, that cash flowing in and out of it to do other things with.
Can you share with us a little bit about what you're using or what you have used your cash value for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been, we started A1, we're not quite 5 years into that. So with that, there's some opportunities that came up. We owned a manure pumping company for a little bit. As a group, we own some hog barns, some contract hog barns. So there's been some places to capitalize that I put money toward, and then with my real estate and now this condo, that's where it's gone. That's where I've, loaned money against it. But I still view it, I'm very much on the, capitalization stage, right? I'm trying to get enough money in there and get everything that is on there loaned out so we can kind of reset and, be able to use it for specific investments and track well, how they are paying, that money back so that it goes out, it truly does go out and come back in a sustainable fashion. That would be my goal.
And so it's a lot of, and I just talked about this in a recent podcast, it's a lot about the unseen. You're doing a lot of unseen in the policy that Nelson talks about for cash flow coming in. We can't look at it as returns because, my gosh, look at what Ty is doing with all of it. And a lot of people forget that. It's not necessarily meant to be a savings account. If you want it to be, great. But if we have opportunities, obviously, you guys listening can tell Ty doesn't sleep and he has opportunities. And so if we've got all of these opportunities, that's awesome. Why not be able to take advantage of those opportunities because he's got liquid money? He doesn't have it in that or asset. So that's fantastic. Robert Kiyosaki was also the first person that I read about when I was like 23, I think. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is mind-blowing. I need to have some real estate. But then I was also, my mistake is I was still listening to Dave Ramsey and Susie Irmen. So I was like, okay, I have to save. I can't, how am I supposed to buy this real estate if I'm supposed to save? And so you kind of have to eliminate one. You can't really do both.
Yeah, I'm on the risk. I'm on the risk taker end of the spectrum. So I've had a lot of conversations about money. Most of any of my family, friends, they need that nest egg. They need that cash in the bank, and I'm just not wired that way. Like I try to keep as little cash in any accounts. I pride myself on how much little cash I have because I want it working. Yeah. I want it working, and I feel like if I run the worst case scenario in my head, I have places to pull money from in the short term. Yeah. Like I have ways to, if and that's insurance and stuff plays into that. But I've very much tried to play my life as Monopoly so far, and I'm buying, not storing cash. Yeah. So as I get older, family, kids, different situations, I'm sure my mindset will change. But so far it's been pedal to the metal for sure. Yeah.
And I think some of it is just your personality, and you are very much a positive thinker. The glass is full for you. Even if it's half full, just fill it up. It's no big deal. Which brings me to Ty's whole inspirational type speaking that he does. And I don't think Ty looks at it as inspirational, but Ty has had a lot of challenges, and he has come up against a lot of challenges and a lot of grief. And so he does share that. And I want you to share a little bit about that and how we can remain positive if you're willing to share what you've kind of gone through, and then how do you remain positive through all of that?
Yeah. Well, this could be a whole podcast in itself.
We might have to chop it.
I speak for well over an hour, different places to talk about this topic. So I'll try to summarize, first of all, my life. It's been a wild ride. It's been an unbelievable life. I feel like in some extent I've lived multiple lives because I don't even recognize the person from, almost previous lives, really. Grew up a farm life. Sports came to me easy. School came to me easy. I thought life was super simple, and I just was, thought I was really smart and just knew everything and had life by the tail. And I was diagnosed with leukemia kind of out of the blue at 15 years old, and went through just a a very hellacious story. 3 years, almost 3 years of chemotherapy, and everything that went wrong or could have went wrong seemed like it did go wrong. I had multiple staph infections. I had aspergillus fungus growing in my lung that they cut out a couple times. The steroids they gave me as part of my chemotherapy wrecked my joints, knees, hips, elbows, and I was flying across the U.S. getting those worked on. As part of my surgeries, I got addicted to OxyContin at one point, and just one thing after another. And in looking back on it, I mean, I shouldn't have survived it. You know, at one point I couldn't even stand anymore. I went from 155 pounds to 106 pounds. Couldn't even get up out of bed. You know, they weren't sure if the chemo was working. They weren't sure if they'd gotten the fungus all out of my lungs. I wasn't eating. I couldn't keep food down. I couldn't walk anymore, and it didn't look great. But I made it through all of that stuff, and it really just changed. You know, 15-year-old Ty was arrogant, and he was an athlete, and the person I became through that process, I looked at the world completely differently, a different perspective. I like to think I'm a lot humbler, but made it through that. I started the Ty Eschenbaum Foundation, would be 11 years ago now. So in 2011, started the Ty Eschenbaum Foundation. Started doing a lot of speaking events in high school, actually. Full K through 12 high schools, church groups, youth groups, fellowship of Christian athletes, just sharing my story. What, you know, I went from, like I said, no cares in the world. I would have been starting varsity quarterback, starting point guard, you know, just living the dream, and everything that I cared about in my life, I felt like I lost, because with my joints deteriorated, I never got to play sports again. I can't play sports now. So football, basketball, track, all the things that I cared about and who I thought I was gone. And, you know, and dealing with all the other challenges mentally and physically along the way. So I speak on that, and I have for 11 years. And for the last 7 or 8 years, we've given fundraise for youth cancer survivor scholarships in the state of South Dakota. We try to give every youth cancer survivor that applies for my foundation or for our scholarship money. You know, last year we gave away 6 awards at $1,000 a piece, and are trying to grow that. So that's what my foundation has been up to. Coming up on 3 years ago, I lost the love of my life. Autumn unexpectedly collapsed and ultimately passed away here right at the house. And my younger brother, Calder, was really there to help me through a lot of that. We're best friends, and Calder would have been 6 years younger than me, and Calder passed away unexpectedly here in October, just not that many months ago. So everything that I've talked about to kids about attitude and perspective, and, you know, life's not fair, and you know, mentally it's all, you know, you can't affect what happens to you in life. You can only affect how you react to it, and that's your superpower. So I've gotten to live that a couple different times, right? To get the chance to practice what I preach, and at the end of the day, you know, my faith has really carried me through. I believe God is great every day, and He hasn't forgot about me for 1 second, and He's been there every second. So I stand on extremely, as tough of a story as that sounds, and it is, I stand on very, very firm ground. And I believe life is a gift, and it's really, really short, and we are just supposed to do whatever we can with the time we're given. And one thing I always say in my speeches is that, you know, every single one of us has been through really, really terrible stuff, is going through really terrible stuff right now. or will go through really terrible stuff in the future, medically, family-wise. Losing people. It's life, and it's not fair, and it's not supposed to be fair. But we're supposed to help each other while we're here as best we can. And I believe that if you're doing all right now, you're doing good. You're in a good place. If you have the ability to help those around you, I believe that you not only have the opportunity to do so, but I believe you have the responsibility to do so. And those are very different things. You don't just have the opportunity, you have the responsibility. You don't have the obligation, you have the responsibility. And those two words differ in that you have ownership and a choice in doing that. So it's not just an opportunity, but it's not an obligation. You have the responsibility to do the best you can with every day that you're given.
Ty, I talk about this a lot, and I've been asked a lot about it, is when somebody loses a loved one, and I don't know, you've maybe got this question before, but when somebody loses a loved one, we're all there for them the second that that person passes. We're there to the funeral, and then, funeral's over, we're a week out. And I've heard from so many people are just, they're gone. And that's when the mourning starts. And I've seen that with my clients that have passed away. I've seen that with their families. I've seen that with friends. And do you have any advice for people that they know somebody that has lost a loved one? Like, what can we do to help? Can we just reach out? Do we, like, after the fact, right? Like a week, 2-3 weeks later, what can we do besides just listen, call? Like, what makes it easier for people going through that?
Yeah, that's a solid question. I think, like you said, right away, there's so much activity. There's so many people there. Everybody wants to help. And really, it's you don't even remember that time. It's so, everything's fuzzy. It's just a blur. It's like you don't even know what's happening, right? But it's when, slowly, it's just a curve, right? Slowly the calls become less, the cards become less, the visits come less, and it kind of trickles down to almost nothing. You feel like, it really feels like everybody else has moved on, and you're still, at that day that it happened, you're still back a month ago, a year ago, and everyone else has moved on with their life. And I think just to be there, and when I say that, it's like it's the core group of friends or family that you have that call you even once a week, 2 months later, 3 months later, 6 months later, and not making it, not always how you doing, not always trying to have the serious conversation with you, right? Just my friends that just call me, just check in, hey, let's do supper. And then if I want to talk about something, great. And if I don't, we just, and just being treated like a normal person and is the biggest thing. And I think people always think, either right away when it happens or later, that they got to come up with the perfect thing or say the right thing or something. And you're not going to say anything perfect. There's nothing you can even try to say. Just being there, saying something. My favorite people after, at Autumn's funeral, Calder's funeral, or afterward or whatever, I've had people just come up and just look at me and just give me a nod, give me a hug, give me a high five, give me a handshake, something, and just look at you in the eyes and walk away. And I'm like, I love that so much. Everyone else is, how are you asking 1,000 times, how are you doing? Or, we're thinking about, but just that hug, look, it says it all. It says absolutely everything.
That's awesome. Because we think we have to say stuff. And yet then we say stuff, and it's the dumbest thing ever that has come out of our mouth. And we have made it harder.
I wouldn't worry about,
and
I don't, and it's not that big a deal. I mean, people want to, hey, we're thinking of you, we get that, but
right.
not many people, but there's been a few times where someone has just, looked at me and just give me a nod or, a shrug or, a handshake, a hug or something, and turned and walked. And it was like, they just said like 10,000 words right then. And I understood everything they just said. And maybe you got to have the right connection with someone or whatever, but, that and the only other voice that I have that I learned that I never compare. Don't ever say, "Well, I understand because I." No, you don't. You don't. You could have lost your closest person to you, and someone else is hurting because their pet died. Or maybe that's a terrible. It seems like maybe your story is worse or something, but I will never tell anybody to compare because it's different. People handle it different. They're capable of handling it differently. They're connected to different people differently. So I would encourage people, don't ever say that, oh, I understand, or I think, I because this happened to me. Don't do that.
I find that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I have found with all of my friends and with my clients, they love to talk about their loved ones. They don't want you to avoid the topic of, hey, let's not bring up Calder because that might, bother Ty, or he's not. No, like most people that I have found love to have that conversation about their loved ones and bring up those memories because they're still memories. They were still a part of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. And, they would still, be here if they could. And, we're living without them, but their memory lives on. You have all those good times. And so, yeah, it's not, I agree. I agree with that 100%.
Okay. Well, I think that I really like the part of our, I like all of our conversation, but I think that so many of us in the egg industry really focus on the negative. Commodity prices are down. Oh my gosh, what's going on in the economy today? Oh, I've got a bill for this and I didn't like this. And fertilizer went up. And I'm not saying that those things are not legitimate concerns because they are. At the end of the day, we have to have a bottom line. But I love the fact that you're like, there's going to be a challenge around every corner. And we're here and we can decide to hit it head on, or we can decide to complain about it, right? It's...
Yeah, it is. When I do my speeches, I talk about the fact that you have no idea what you're capable of. The human body, physically and mentally, is capable of some unbelievable things. And most of the time, we're not even tapping like 5 or 10%. Right. So it's, I've been tested when I was sick physically, pain wise and, and then mentally, mental anguish and whatnot. And, I think, a lot of you read in different books and whatever, right? The Navy SEALs and the Special Forces and whatever, right? They think typically if when the human body thinks that they're 100% spent, couldn't possibly, run another foot or do another push-up or whatever, right? That you're completely done, that you're probably only, 40, 50%, there of what it's your mind. It's your mind that tells you that you can't do things, not your body. So anyway,
I need to read those books. I stub my toe and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I have like 0 pain threshold. That's going to have to click in. I'm only like 0.5% there, Mary Jo. If you stubbed your toe, it's okay. But I agree. Like it really is. And it's about who you surround yourself with as well. I was just listening to a John Maxwell book the other day, and he was talking about you're never going to get anywhere if everybody that you're surrounded with is nowhere. Right. And so it's the surrounding of physically, mentally, financially getting into a room with people smarter than you and not people that you have nothing to learn from. I prefer to be the dumbest one in the room on every level, not just business purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very gifted in my life. I've always been surrounded by people and had, bosses and whatnot that have always expected more out of me than I've expected out of myself a lot of time, right? Or thought that I could do things that I didn't think I could do. And so it's been a gift for me to be surrounded by people that think that way, think that nothing is impossible. So if I have any of those qualities even close, it's because it's rubbed off from who I've gotten to work for and work with and be partners with in business and in life. Yeah.
All right, Ty, thank you for your time. Can you tell everybody if they want to contact you, if they want to look up the foundation, where do they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess kind of down our buckets, winkcharlet.com is the family operation. A1developmentsolutions.com is our consulting business that tells all about all the projects we're involved in. And we love, some of our favorite projects are helping family farms figure out if they want to add a hog barn or a beef barn or get manure from the dairy down the road or, any of those things. So A1developmentsolutions.com and then TYEfoundation.org. TYEfoundation.org is the website that tells about the foundation, about the scholarship. So this foundation really it's an endowed foundation that we're growing. Three main purposes. Number one, fund youth cancer survivor scholarships. Number two, we've agreed to one full Adopt a Wish with Make-A-Wish. I was a Make-A-Wish kid, so Autumn loved kids. Kids were so drawn to her. So in her honor, we have Autumn's Make-A-Wish kids, but we sponsor at least one full wish annually forever. And that's not just an intention. That is backed up by the endowment itself and then through my life insurance. So we have a term policy with you, and that eventually we'll get that set up as a life of a whole life policy. Yep. It's term now, but it's set up in such a way so that if something happens to me, Autumn's Make-A-Wish kids every year for forever is taken care of. And then the third thing, in honor of Calder, my family is going to be helping fund missionary work. So those are three buckets. We've just announced that we're having our first, when I give my speeches, my credo is earn the gift. And that's the whole fundamental basis of my talk. We're having the inaugural Earn the Gift Gala, the Swiftel Arena. We got the main arena booked in Brookings, South Dakota. We got dueling pianos. Oh, awesome. We're gonna have prime rib supper. It's a black tie, dress up, come out, and it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a grand time for a good cause. So December 3rd, if anybody's interested, mark it down. The website is not quite updated, but the website's getting a revamp right now, which will tell more about all these things and the event. So,
and then if they want to hire you to speak somewhere, that's on tie.e.com as well.
Yep, you can send an email there to me. So when I'm asked to do events, I get to many of those as I possibly can, and for 20 minutes or an hour, we talk about life and attitude and perspective and faith and all the stuff. So
awesome. I love it. Well, thank you. I'm going to take a nap because all your stuff has made me a little tired. Thank you very much for sharing all of your information and sharing just you with us. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's been fun. So thank you much.
All right, you guys, if you need any information on Ty, just rewind and then you can find it there. We may be able to put it on the video or we could put it in the show notes, obviously. But if you, for whatever reason, need his information, just reach out to me and I can send that your way as well. But as always, thank you for being here. You guys know how to find me. I'll talk to you soon.